one double fault in a WTA 1000 semifinal on clay. Under a Roman sun, with a Roland Garros title to defend and a tour desperately waiting for her to crack, Coco Gauff hit one double fault. If you followed her career with any seriousness, you know exactly how seismic that number is. For 3 years, the conversation around Gauff has always circled back to the same wound, the second serve. The one shot that has repeatedly unraveled her at the worst possible moments, the shot that opponents targeted like a homing missile, the shot that knocked her confidence sideways in matches she had absolutely no business losing. And now she's standing in the Foro Italico, a press conference microphone in front of her, and she's using language I haven't heard from her camp before. We found the recipe, not I'm working on it, not it's getting better. The recipe, that's a declaration. That's a player who has crossed a threshold. I want to be precise about what we actually watched in that semifinal against Sorana Cirstea, because the scoreline 6-4, 6-3 is clean, but the story underneath it is more interesting than the numbers suggest. Cirstea is not a pushover. She's ranked 27th in the world for a reason. She's a grinder on clay, and her game plan against Gauff is exactly what you'd expect from a veteran. Wait for the second serve, step inside the baseline, take it early, and redirect it into the open court. That's the playbook. Every coach on tour has it written somewhere, and it didn't work. Not because Gauff outran it, not because Cirstea had a bad day, but because the second serve that Cirstea was supposed to feast on simply wasn't the liability it used to be. Watch the third game of the first set. Gauff is serving at 1-1, faces a 15-30 situation, and instead of going conservative and looping a high kicker that sits up, the old version of this shot, the one that screamed, "Please attack me," she commits weight forward, tosses the ball just a fraction further into the court, and drives a second serve out wide to Cirstea's backhand that clips the service line at a pace that gives her opponent no time to set up. That's not a fluke. That's a rehearsed motion. That's muscle memory from hours of session work. Now, here's the bit that actually bothers me about the broader tennis conversation around Gauff, and I'll say this bluntly. The media has spent so much energy cataloging her serve problems that they've been almost criminally slow to acknowledge when she's actively solving them. She told the press today that it's the first time in her career she feels genuinely stable on that shot. First time. She's 21 years old, she's a two-time Grand Slam champion, and this is the first time the second serve feels like a shot she owns rather than a shot she survives. If you're a purist, you're going to love this because what she's describing technically is exactly what the coaching textbooks demand. Consistent toss, weight transfer loaded and timed, identical technical shape regardless of target. The moment those three elements become automatic, not thought about, just executed, the shot stops being a gamble and starts being a platform. I was looking at the tape and noticed something that confirms what she said in that press conference without her even needing to say it. Compare her service motion from the Madrid Open 2 weeks ago with what we saw in Rome this week. In Madrid, in that third set against Linda Noskova, the match she led and then didn't close, the toss was drifting, not dramatically, maybe a centimeter or two behind her head, which forced her to reach back on the second serve and rob herself of any downward drive. The result? Flat, spinless, sitting deliveries that Noskova was practically sprinting around to attack. In Rome, the toss stays in front of the hitting shoulder consistently, rally after rally. That is a technical correction that has been drilled until it doesn't require conscious thought, and that's the only way you beat a motion flaw under pressure. She also mentioned confidence, and I don't want to brush past that because in tennis, the mental and technical are never actually separate. A player who trusts their second serve takes a different risk profile on first serves. They go for more on first delivery because they're not terrified of missing it. When Goff hits a big first serve, and she has the frame and the athleticism to generate serious pace, it changes the entire dynamic of the rally before it even starts. Against Cirstea, she won 78% of first serve points. That number doesn't exist if the second serve is a liability because she wouldn't be swinging freely on first serves to begin with. The confidence feeds, the aggression feeds the result. It's a cycle and it's finally turning in the right direction. Here's what I keep coming back to though. Goff said something in that press conference that most people will skip right past because it sounds like routine tennis talk, but it's actually the most important thing she said all week. She said that right now the focus is on making the serve consistent, and the next phase is making it a weapon. That sequencing is everything. She is not trying to do both simultaneously. She's not trying to hit aces and eliminate double faults at the same time because that's exactly the kind of confused objective that produces neither. First, you build the foundation, then you build the house. The fact that she and her team have the discipline to think in phases rather than trying to fix everything at once, that's a sign of a coaching environment operating at a very high level. Now I want to talk about what this means for Roland Garros because that's the real conversation and everyone in that press room knew it. Gauff is the defending champion at Roland Garros. She walks into Paris in 2 weeks carrying a target that every player on tour is aiming at, and she carries it on a surface where her baseline aggression is most potent, where her inside out forehand opens up the court mercilessly, where her court coverage, genuinely elite, genuinely one of the best movers in the women's game, turns defensive situations into offensive ones. She won Paris last year playing with a second serve that was a known weakness. Imagine what she does if that weakness is no longer there. I was looking at the tape and noticed something from her Roland Garros run last year that contextualizes this beautifully. In the semi-final at Roland Garros, Gauff faced a player who systematically attacked her second serve from the first game of the match. She survived it. She fought through it. She won, and she won despite the second serve, which tells you everything about the quality of the rest of her game. Now she's heading into the same tournament with that shot no longer guaranteed to be a liability. The math changes, the mental load is lighter, and mentally lighter players make better decisions at breakpoint junctures, serve smarter in tiebreaks, and stay more composed when the momentum swings. And look, here's the part that no one wants to say loudly. The women's draw at Roland Garros has never been less predictable. Iga Swiatek, who Gauff may face in the Rome final, has been dominant on clay but has shown moments of vulnerability this clay season that weren't there 12 months ago. Arina Sabalenka is a force on hard courts who has yet to truly impose herself on Paris red dirt at the very top. Elena Rybakina's flat game can trouble anyone but gets complicated in extended clay court rallies. The draw is genuinely open. And in an open draw, the player who is improving fastest, the player whose game has the most upward momentum right now, has an enormous psychological edge over opponents who are simply maintaining. I was looking at the tape from Gauff's quarterfinal in Rome as well, and I want to credit something that doesn't get enough attention: her ability to hold tactical focus during momentum shifts. When she dropped a set earlier in the tournament, she didn't panic serve. She didn't start second guessing the motion she'd been drilling. She kept the same process, kept the same routine, and trusted the work. That's not something you can manufacture. That comes from a player who genuinely believes in what she's been building in practice. Her father's coaching philosophy came through in what she said today. This idea that the second set is the most important set because it determines whether you win or whether you keep yourself alive. That framing is not accidental. It's how you produce a player who doesn't crumble when a first set slips away, who can be down 4 or 5 in the second and still believe the match is entirely retrievable. Coco Gauff has that mentality baked into her DNA at this point, and the technical improvements on the serve are about to give that mentality the weapon it's always deserved. My prediction for the next 3 months: Gauff reaches the Roland Garros final. She wins it if the second serve holds under the pressure of a 2 week Grand Slam grind. And if she does, if she walks out of Paris with back to back titles on clay, the conversation about her joining the all time great clay quarters of this era stops being a hypothetical and becomes a reckoning. The rest of the tour has been waiting for her serve to break her. It might be time to reconsider that strategy entirely.